It's Friday, March 19th, and this is now on HNN.
That these recommendations are specific to students in classrooms with universal mask wearing.
We're going to talk about this new CDC school guidance that says 3 feet of physical distancing is safe.
We see it as our work every single day.
President Biden today taking on the rise in hate crimes against the Asian American community. I'm Skyler Henry in Washington with the latest and more on his and the vice president's trip to Atlanta and calls for Congress to pass a new bill addressing the issue.
Is realize these things are estimates.
The estimated cost of rail rises to $12.4 billion, but the price tag may not be what it seems.
Please wait while we connect you to the next available agent.
Plus, an update on that new unemployment call center. Some claimants are still not happy. These stories and more coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thanks for watching. This is now on this Aloha Friday. Jonathan and Ashley here joining you from the HNN Digital Center. We want to get right to the breaking news from the State Department of Health. Right, Ashley?
That's right. Almost hit triple digits today, you guys. So the state health department is reporting 99 new cases and 1 new fatality. The breakdown by island shows 7 cases on the Big Island, 37 on Maui, 49 on Oahu, and 6 people were diagnosed out of state. Meanwhile, the White House says it wants to make every adult in the U.S. eligible for vaccination no later than May 1st. Lieutenant Governor Josh Green says the state can do that. Here's what he had to say just a short time ago.
Yeah, that's our goal. We want to meet the president's goal, which is now not overly ambitious. We can do it because we are getting more vaccine into the state. We were hopeful to move to 55 to 64 in the week of March 28th. And we've proposed that to the Director of Health, our committee. We expect that we'll be able to incrementally get there. So in order to get to a wide open status for the state on the week of May 1st, we need to make that change. So that will happen. And we're now really advancing. We're at 518,000 confirmed vaccine doses given. We're over 10,000 doses a day on average. And there's a lot of ramp up going on at the private pharmacies also. So all of this is boding well for the May 1st goal.
Meanwhile, new today, the CDC has changed school guidance, allowing desks to be closer. Here's what the head of the agency had to say at a White House news briefing.
Specifically, in elementary schools, CDC is now recommending that all students remain at least 6 feet apart in classrooms where everyone is wearing a mask, regardless of whether community COVID-19 risk is low, low, moderate, substantial, or high. In middle and high schools, CDC is also recommending that students be at least 3 feet apart in classrooms where everyone is wearing a mask and the community level of risk is low, moderate, or substantial. Because COVID-19 is spread more likely among older students, CDC recommends that middle and high school students should be at least 6 feet apart in communities where COVID-19 risk is high, unless cohorting is possible. Cohorting is when groups of students are kept together with the same peers and staff without close interaction with other groups or cohorts to reduce the risk of spread throughout the school.
The president and vice president both in Georgia today, meeting with members of the Asian American community, asking for help and badly shaken after a series of violent attacks. Here's Skyler Henry.
President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are in Atlanta, meeting with a group of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. They're discussing the recent spike in hate crimes as the community mourns the shooting deaths of 8 people, including 6 Asian women. Georgia State Senator Michelle Au spoke with CBS News before attending the meeting.
He clearly is invested in listening to this issue and trying to correct not just the mistakes of the past 4 years, but the mistakes of the past several centuries in this country.
We need to fight!
A report by the group Stop AAPI Hate found Asian Americans faced around 3,800 incidents associated with hate in the past year. Local police say the suspected Georgia gunman told investigators his actions were not racially motivated, though the investigation is still ongoing.
We see it as our work every single day. to combat racism.
Before the meeting, the president and vice president went to the CDC. The president is urging Congress to pass the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. The bill would expedite the federal government's response to the rise in hate crimes during the pandemic and give support to state and local governments to improve hate crimes reporting.
In honor of the victims of the horrific shootings in Georgia this week.
On the House floor Friday, a moment of silence. The president has ordered flags to fly at half-staff at the White House and on other federal buildings nationwide to honor the Georgia shooting victims until sunset, March 22nd. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Now, HART recently announced that the Honolulu Rail project will cost $12.4 billion and take another decade to complete construction. Joining us now is HNN's managing editor, Daryl Huff, for more on this. What's going on, Daryl?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is realize these things are estimates. And what the new CEO of HART is doing is basically highballing the estimate, trying to crank in every possible risk. Extending the time adds a lot of the money that they're talking about. So by going out to 2031, you're adding a lot to the estimate because time is money with these projects. And also she's cranked in $1.6 or so billion in contingency, money that may or may not be used, but it's just there in case something goes wrong. So this big number that we're hearing is big, and it's coming off of a big number, but it's really an estimate. It's a worst case scenario kind of estimate.
Why is Kahikina taking this approach of over budgeting rather than saying, what the real cost of the project is?
Well, first off, nobody knows what the real cost is. The prior CEOs really damaged the credibility of the project by trying to hit the nail on the head every time with an estimate and then constantly running into new problems that cost a lot of money, new delays that cost a lot of money. And so that's what she's trying to avoid. This way, theoretically, if you say we need another $3 billion for this project beyond the current revenue estimates and they get the money, then she's got a lot less to worry about falling short.
Something interesting that happened. So one of the board members suggested, starting at Ala Moana and building west to save money. Would that be something that could work?
Sure. So Lori Kahikina is taking that idea pretty seriously. They're looking into it. They're talking to potential bidders about how that would work. The idea is you start from Ala Moana or somewhere in the east of where they're having trouble now at Dillingham, work back toward Dillingham while simultaneously fixing their problems at Dillingham, because Dillingham right now is the big roadblock. By doing that, theoretically, and this is the argument from the board members, you could shave 2 years off of that timeline. And if you could do that, then you save tons of money too. So he really pushed back on Lori, urging her to do that. She said she's taking the idea very seriously. But one thing to keep in mind, nobody knows what's under the ground in Kaka'ako really either. And so, and especially the burials issue down along Halikuila Street, right by Kauai Hau Church and so on, that could be as bad as the spaghetti noodle of utilities under Dillingham that's already the problem.
All right, Daryl, thank you for taking the time to talk story. Jonathan, back to you.
An airline is accused of turning away a Garden Isle family after their child with autism could not wear a mask. Let's turn it over to Sammy Salina with more on that.
With a doctor's note in hand before the flight, this Kauai mother thought it shouldn't be an issue to get a mask exemption for her 5-year-old daughter who is autistic, but she ran into trouble.
Oh, there you go. We're here. At the age of 2 years old, she was diagnosed with autism. Say thank you. She just knows like the basic stuff, like if she wants cookie, that's it. So still nonverbal.
Jenny Remolacho travels from Kauai to Oahu for Kylie's therapy. In February, she flew with Hawaiian Airlines and she had this doctor's note.
Because of this condition, she has a sensory issues that create a lot of anxiety. This includes the use of a mask.
A mask exemption was no issue, but earlier this month, she chose Southwest to save money and was stopped by the gate agent.
She said, unfortunately, we cannot get you into the plane because there's a regulation.
She showed them the note. She tried to put a mask on Kylie, and when the 5-year-old refused, she said they were turned away.
So I feel really disappointed because they should have done better.
We reached out to the airline, and a spokesperson said, "While we regret any inconvenience this family experienced while traveling, federal law requires each person 2 years of age and older to wear a mask at all times throughout the flight, including during boarding and deplaning." The airline says on Sunday they began considering applications for mask exemptions, but documents must be submitted before the flight.
Of course, we are here to follow rules, but we were right there by the door, It's just difficult and also embarrassing.
So the family went back to Hawaiian, who said they've always had different rules. Our face mask policy, which took effect May 8th, has always included an exemption for young children and guests who are unable to keep a face mask on due to a medical condition or disability.
I'm just doing the best I can.
She said from now on, she's flying Hawaiian. Siami Solina, Hawaii News Now.
The U.S. has set a new one-day air travel record since the pandemic started. The TSA says it screened more than 1.4 million people at airports across the country Thursday. The previous record was set only a week ago. In the last 7 days, more than 8.8 million people flew. This is usually a popular travel weekend because of spring break. Health officials are still warning Americans to avoid travel as COVID-19 cases surge in some states. Frustrated business owners in Oahu's wedding industry protested at Honolulu Hale. They haven't been able to hold events for more than a year. But things took a turn when the mayor came out to meet them. Stephanie Lum has more.
Rallying to reopen weddings.
I think if you talk to anyone in this industry, we're talking 80 to 90% decreases in revenue.
My business was 95% of brides are out of state. So as you can imagine how bad my business has been impacted.
Dozens of small business owners and workers, all linked to the wedding industry, staged a peaceful protest outside of Honolulu Hale. But emotions escalated when Mayor Rick Blangiardi made a surprise appearance to hear the group's concerns.
Do you know how hard it is to pay bills monthly and not know where my money's coming from? I haven't worked since March. I don't want to ask for help. I went on food stamps for a while, but I didn't want to because I didn't think I needed it. I need it for people that need it. We can work. We can structurally say and safely say we can work.
The mayor says weddings were on his original list of modifications for Tier 3, but says the state health department did not approve the request. The industry wants city and state leaders to acknowledge professional weddings under the same tier category as live structured events, not social gatherings. They say they can safely stage a wedding of up to 25 people.
We have been an invisible industry, and I think everyone here today is saying, please hear our voice. We haven't worked for an entire year.
We know you're trying to work. We know you have a lot on your plate, but don't forget about us.
You know what? I appreciate every word you just said. Every word you just said. I came down here to hear, listen, also try to tell you my position. I'm not giving up.
The mayor promised to go back to the DOH and ask for changes.
Try to make the case for the weddings under the circumstances what this young man just said with respect to gatherings of maybe 25.
For now, both sides await a compromise.
I'm confident that we will be able to move forward working with him and working with the Department of Health. We really are excited.
We told you about the state launching a new call center for unemployment, but as Casey Lund shows us, some claimants are still having a lot of problems.
Well, each time the federal government has extended unemployment benefits, the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation programs, the state of Hawaii has had serious issues getting those payments into the hands of our state's unemployed. Now, there are a number of reasons for this. First and foremost, unemployment offices across the country have been overwhelmed by an unimaginable amount of claims. Federal benefits require states to follow strict guidelines to make sure those receiving payments are actually eligible. Our state's computer system, used by the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, is seriously outdated. It will be more than a year before a new cloud-based system comes online. While these are somewhat understandable excuses for delays in payments, they mean very little to people like Stacy Welch, who was laid off from her food service job in March. She considers herself lucky. She has been paid, but when there were issues with her claims, this has been her experience trying to get help.
Please wait while we connect you to the next available agent. Due to a high volume of calls, your call cannot be connected to an agent. Please try to call again later. Goodbye.
That's the first call of probably 100 before I give up, and then go do some garden work or yard work, dishes, and then start the process all over again.
At the beginning of this month, the DLIR implemented what they call a bot blocker. It's technology that's supposed to help eliminate auto dialers from clogging up the helpline. This call with Stacy was 1 week after that technology was brought online. We've tried ourselves several times to get through to the unemployment helpline. I've never been able to actually speak with a person. We again asked Director Ann Pereira-Stacchio to do an interview this morning to kind of reassure folks that things are improving and that the next round of federal benefits will be implemented smoothly. Those will go through September. She was not available for an interview this morning on Sunrise. Back to you.
So we've learned that scenic platform atop Cocoa Crater Trail will stay there for now. Hikers complained when they found out the city planned to remove it, but the city has reached a deal with a nonprofit to leave it there for at least another year while the city builds a new one. We're told the city will continue to seal off vents and shafts and put up warning signs about the hazards.
Now let's toss it over to Lacey Denise for an island-by-island update on storm recovery efforts following the recent severe weather.
The city says nearly 80 homes were impacted by the severe weather last week. 3 were destroyed, 30 had major damage, and 45 sustained minor damage. The city says major damage means extensive repairs are required, and it's not safe to live in the home until then. With minor damage, people can live in the home and repairs are non-structural. The Department of Emergency Management says the hardest hit areas were in Haleiwa and the windward side. And on Kauai, public access on Kuhio Highway begins tomorrow, but the schedule is limited. One lane will be open from 5:45 to 7:45 in the morning, then again at 1:45 to 2:30 except for Wednesdays. It's limited to 12:45 to 1:30 on Wednesday afternoons. The lane will open from 5:45 to 10 o'clock during the evenings. Access opens up more starting next weekend. We'll post the full schedule on hawaiinewsnow.com. And on Maui, Congressman Kai Kahele toured Haiku's flood areas with Maui Mayor Mike Victorino. They started at the Kaupakalua Dam, which overflowed last week. They also visited the washed-out Pe'ahi Bridge. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
Thank you very much, Lacey. Oh man, I went on a walk last night in Waikiki and it was chilly. I could not believe how cold it was. And then that mist just made it even colder.
Was it crowded too?
Yes. Oh, the lines around the restaurant were long. Some people said they were waiting up to an hour and a half, actually.
Wow.
But here's what it looks like outside. Very pleasant and peaceful Friday right now we got going on. Billy V is in for Guy Hoggy, and here's his update on that oh-so-important weekend forecast.
Thank you very much. Billy V sitting in for Guy Hoggy. Let's give you an idea of how your weekend is going to go. We're going to start with the ocean first and kind of give you the numbers. First of all, we've got a high surf advisory that's in effect for the east-facing shores of all Hawaiian Islands. That's the reason being 7 to 9 foot surf. And that is on the way up just a little bit, and that's rough and choppy. That's because of the gusty winds that we'll be having for the next couple of days. 6 to 8 foot surf over on the north shore, 4 to 6 on the west side, and 2 to 4 over in the town spots. Now, let's get to the forecast. There's the rain and wind trend model. We're going to kind of put this into motion. We're starting this off at Friday 9 a.m. and as we move forward into the noon hour, which of course we're part of right now, and in through the weekend, it's going to be strong, gusty trade winds. Now, once we get into next week, we get to about Tuesday, you're going to start to see some changes. We're going to get a cold front that's going to come through the islands. You see some of that there, and we've also got some rain showers, but this is also the front pulling up all of this moisture from the south. So that means Hawaii Island's going to get some of that. But as we put this forward, watch, we've got Oahu and Kauai, and they're going to get some more shower activity as we get into Friday. So once again, in your 7-day forecast, know that for this weekend, the word is going to be winds. Okay, winds. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, into Monday. Once we get to Tuesday, then that's when we start dealing with rain. Now, one word for windward Oahu and for Kauai. When these rains come, notice the slow wind speed. So when that rain comes, it's not going to move because there's not enough wind to push it away. that may present some problems. So use some caution and start to prepare for this time period if you've already been experiencing some flooding conditions. We'll keep track of this as we go throughout this next week, and we'll let you know once we get closer in how this will pan out. Once again, you can get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device, and at hawaiinewsnow.com.
New at noon, an Australian songbird has become so endangered it's forgotten how to sing its own song. Here's Tina Kraus with more on what scientists are doing to help.
The sweet-sounding Regent honeyeater is known for attracting mates with its dulcet tones.
We know from our work that the females prefer to pair up and breed with males that have good songs.
But the rare songbird native to southeastern Australia has started to lose its melody. It's lost much of its habitat, too, as forests are destroyed to make way for farming. Scientists say as adults disappear, young birds are struggling to learn their native mating calls.
This one sounded like a noisy firebird. This one, a black-faced cuckoo shrike.
Researchers say about 12% of Regent honeyeaters have completely lost their natural song. So scientists are trying to create some harmony by playing recordings of wild birds to young birds in captivity.
And the hope is that those birds will hear the recordings and learn to replicate those songs.
Giving songbirds a better chance at finding love as they pass traditional tunes to the next generation. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
Well, a lot of you are talking about March Madness on the feeds, right, Ash?
That's right, it's on, and Loyola Chicago's 101-year-old team chaplain, Sister Jean, she's vaccinated and cleared to go to cheer on her Ramblers in Indy.
Is it fair bracket for Loyola?
Oh no. It just amazes me that, first of all, that they put two Illinois schools together in the same to go against each other rather than support each other. It's going to be a tough game against Georgia Tech. And of course, we know Illinois is number one. So it's going to be a hard struggle for us. But for my own teams, our own team, I have them going to the Elite Eight.
All right, Sister Jean, she won't be allowed around the players, but she will still lead the team in a pregame prayer via telephone. She had to lobby hard and make some promises before getting permission to go to the tournament. She became the focus of a media frenzy 3 years ago when she accompanied the team on their underdog run to the Final Four at the 2018 men's tournament.
101.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? And just a reminder that March Madness is live for several days to come on KGMB, our CBS station here in town. So you can catch it all there. And we have a lot of wrap-ups on our H&N digital platforms as well. You guys have been waiting for this story all day. Check it out. You know who it's about. Dolly Parton. She's getting her own comic book. It's the latest edition of Tidal Wave Comics, Female Force, a series dedicated to inspirational women. The 22-page Female Force Dolly Parton edition will be released March 31st. In print and in digital form. The singer, songwriter, actress, get ready for this, Dolly Parton facts are coming your way, Ash, has 11 Grammys under her belt. So she's sold more than 100 million records since first album in 1967.
Wow.
Parton joins other female figures like Michelle Obama, Cher, and Mother Teresa for getting their own comic books.
Very cool.
And the artistry looks great. I don't know what the storyline will be. I can't figure it out just yet, but it looks pretty cute.
You'll have to get a copy, John.
I think I will. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this Aloha Friday.
Thank goodness.
Woo, we made it. We'll be back here on Monday to see y'all. Bye.